In Florida, a controversial arrest took place, and as the story unfolds, it is unlikely to come as a surprise to many, given the recurring instances of law enforcement officers failing to carry out their duties effectively. The commanding voice of an officer rang out, ordering the car to stop while instructing its occupants to remain within its confines.
What are you doing here? Turn the car off. Turn the car off now. Turn the car off now. Turn the car off. Turn the car off now. Turn the car off.
What you doing? Because I'll punch you in your. Don't ever forget that. I'll punch you
Give
in
me
your.
a second,
Hold on, let me go.
Hey,
Let me
explain to you what we're doing.
Put your hands on me, and I
am
don't say
responding.
I don't give
Hold
a.
on. I'm responding to an alarm call.
Put your hands on me, and I didn't turn up on you.
Turn around.
Watch your mouth. Hold on, mama.
Nobody's under.
The urgent commands continued as the officer persisted in demanding that the car be turned off.
You came in this car side. Don't you ever put your hands on me. I'll spit on you. Stop.
Under arrest. Stop. Get down.
Chill, bro. Chill, bro. Stop. Hey, stop.
40 seconds, right? Step it up. Get down now. Get down now. Turn around. And put your hands behind your back. Get down. Get down.
Repeating the instruction with increasing urgency. In the midst of the chaos, the officer hastily clarified that the situation was not an arrest, urging the woman to turn around while reassuring them that they were not under arrest. However, the events captured in the body camera footage were deeply unsettling and shocking. Despite the officer's reassurances of trying not to cause harm, the tense atmosphere and the officer's actions conveyed a sense of imminent danger. As the situation escalated, the woman in the car expressed their distress, pleading to the officer to stop touching them. She called out to her mother, emphasizing that she could communicate with them but not the officer. Frustration filled their voice as they protested against being held and instructed the officer not to forcefully turn their face. The tension heightened further when 2 additional sheriff's deputies arrived at the scene.
Oh, you're wrong, and I take your whole time. Oh my soul, fix my wrist, it's breaking.
It's not breaking.
Fix it, bro. If I said it hurt, and I will spit on you. Fix my wrist. What the fix it, bro.
What are you doing?
Stop touching me.
Stop pulling
Stop
away.
touching me. My wrist hurt. I'm gonna pull away. What the bro? You doing too much, bro. You touch me. I'm doing too much. Touch me. What's wrong with you? See you down there. I'll take this whole car on my mama.
The initial officer attempted to explain the situation, but the woman in the car resisted, refusing to comply. The scene became chaotic, with the car door being forcefully slammed and the individuals traveling with the woman who had been subjected to brutality distancing themselves from the officer.
Listen, come on. You know what's going on?
They snatched her out of the car, slammed on her face, bro.
The officer's body camera captured the events, and it became evident that those present wanted no association with the officer involved. The woman stressed that their wrists were inside the vehicle and cautioned the officer against pushing them, asserting that they were capable of handling the situation without any external force.
Okay.
Get it?
Calm down, we'll help you out, okay?
Don't push me, girl. I'm not going to touch you. Put your feet in the car, please. Can you start to get away? I will listen to
help
you,
you out.
but she cannot be in my face.
It also captures this woman being placed in a squad car. To reiterate, this woman did not do anything wrong, and we know this via local media. So here comes the next investigation story. During a game in Manchester, a police officer harassed A.J. Dillon, a running back for the Green Bay Packers. The incident, captured on video, gained widespread attention. Dillon had sought permission from security guards to interact with fans during a rain delay. As he prepared to jump back into the stands, the officer grabbed him by the collar and pushed him forward. The Green Bay Police Department acknowledged policy violations by the officer and took appropriate action. The Green Bay Packers appreciated the department's response and reiterated their commitment.
Go, Pack, go!
safety at Lambeau Field. Dillon confirmed the misunderstanding and that security had given him permission to engage with the crowd. Dillon explains while enjoying the game from his family suite. A.J. Dillon witnessed the rain delay and seizing the opportunity for some last-minute fun before training camp, he noticed passionate fans braving the rain and going wild in the stands. Inspired, A.J. suggested to his brother-in-law that they join the enthusiastic crowd.
Rain's coming down and they're going crazy, wilding out down there in the stands. I look at my brother-in-law, I'm like, hey, let's go ahead and get down there. Let's go join the fans. So he ran down. Making their way down, A.J. encountered two security guards and sought their permission to stay in a specific section to interact with the fans. Stay in this little section, just show the people some love, and they're like, yeah, so they helped me down.
And these security guards know that you're A.J. Dillon.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're like, yeah,
like you're in your house.
Yeah, they gave me their hands, helped me down, and jumped down there, and I'm starting to chant, high-fiving people, and then I'm about to jump on my Lambo Leap, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoo, like I felt like getting pulled back, and I honestly thought it was a fan, like, that was down there. I was like, oh, somebody really wants to take a picture.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And yeah, this guy's like, get up there, you're getting arrested. I'm like, all right, that was my plan. I was about to jump up.
They recognized him as A.J. Dillon and gladly assisted him in descending to the lower section. A.J. engaged with the fans, leading chants and exchanging high fives. As he was about to jump into the Lambeau Leap, he suddenly felt a force pulling him back. Initially assuming it was an eager fan wanting a photo, A.J. soon realized that he was being confronted by an individual who instructed him to return to his seat, indicating he was being arrested. Deciding it was best to comply, A.J. quickly rose to avoid any further complications in the situation. Next is a drunken cop caught on duty.
Hey, Officer Oscar, why don't we come back out here real quick? Come back to Buffalo.
Okay. Hey, man. So, can you just put your hands on the roof for me? Here, I'm going to remove your gun, okay? You got any other weapons?
No, but I'm
You can
supposed to
stay.
see. You're prone to seizures? Okay, I'll turn my lights off real quick for you, all right?
I'm going to put this in my car for the duration of this.
An on-duty police officer, Oscar, was caught exhibiting signs of impairment while on the job. As the officer was conducting his duties, he was approached by another officer who called out to him, urging him to return to the scene. The other officer assured Officer Oscar that everything was all right and requested for him to place his hands on the roof while the individual removed his gun for safety. Officer Oscar complied and informed the person that he did not possess any other weapons but mentioned having seizures. In an attempt to alleviate the situation, Officer Oscar decided to turn his lights off momentarily. Observers noted that despite his efforts to remain composed and collected, Oscar's behavior clearly indicated impairment.
I guess it went to you guys.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure other people was probably calling you.
Okay.
But,
yeah, we got a call.
Yeah, he could be having a medical condition, but he was asleep. We passed by his car. He was asleep.
He was asleep?
He was
When did you pass by his car?
Right over here at Center and Firewood.
He came and he keeps stumbling.
Do you smell anything?
Upon searching Officer Oscar's car, it became apparent why he'd been pulled over in the first place. Allegedly, this was the manner in which he had been behaving prior to the concerned individual's intervention. Citizens had dialed 911 to report Officer Oscar's erratic behavior on the road. Witnesses described him as driving all over the road, frequently stopping in the middle of the street or off the road and disregarding stop signs. Despite attempting to reach the Apopka Police Department directly, the concerned individuals were informed that it was closed, prompting them to call 911 instead. They expressed certainty that others may have also placed similar calls, and the conversation briefly mentioned a call regarding firewood, although the context and relevance were unclear. Officer Oscar's condition appeared to be deteriorating as he struggled to maintain his balance and coherence. The conversation took a sudden turn to a discussion about the type of beer that was present in a center console when Officer Oscar initially arrived. The details surrounding the statement were unclear. In an attempt to manage the situation, other officers instructed Officer Oscar to sit down and assured him that emergency medical services would be summoned to transport him. Officer Oscar was asked if he had done anything to celebrate the day, to which he responded negatively. However, he proceeded to disclose that he had taken a significant amount of Benadryl. Acknowledging the nature of their profession, Officer Oscar stated it's often better to be honest. The conversation took a turn as Officer Oscar admitted to having an open container of alcohol in his vehicle, emphasizing that mistakes are made by everyone. The individual speaking with him commented on the stressfulness of their job and alluded to Officer Oscar possibly having a stressful night prior. They expressed a desire for law enforcement officers to treat everyone with fairness and humanity rather than solely favoring their fellow officers. In a desperate plea, Officer Oscar expressed his desire to avoid going to jail. However, the officers continued to engage with him, assuring him that they would figure things out. They instructed Officer Oscar to place his hands together as if in prayer. In an unexpected twist, the officers chose to disregard their colleagues' pleas and proceeded to arrest him despite the initial leniency displayed. It is worth noting that there is no available information to suggest that Officer Oscar caused harm to anyone while he was on duty. It is hoped that his arrest serves as a wake-up call for him and leads to necessary introspection and change.
The residents of Baltimore were shocked to know that they were not safe in their homes. The members of the Gun Track Task Force were engaging in dishonest business practices, including fraud, extortion, and robbery.
Corrupt cops who swore to protect and serve were nothing more than criminals.
Their secrets were revealed in 2017, and since then, the Baltimore story was covered by the media extensively. How did they get caught? How did they manage to save their faces all these years? The significant news that this legendary police fraud gang had been exposed stemmed from the death of Freddie Gray. Given that Freddie died unexpectedly while in police custody, the Baltimore police station was under investigation. To find out how Freddie died and what caused it, an investigation was carried out. According to the inquiry report, 6 Baltimore police officers were involved in the arrest of Freddie Gray. He was caught selling drugs when he was detained. He was dragged to the police van, where they locked the door. But the fact that they disregarded safety precautions and endangered Freddie's life is what went wrong. The policeman in the van was playing with him like he was a toy. He was treated inhumanely and subjected to terrible torture. He was prohibited from using a seatbelt and his wrists and feet were bound. He was not permitted to have any type of basic safety equipment. His spinal cord and neck were seriously hurt. He was unable to withstand the torture and passed away a week later as a result. There was something strange about the police officers. Therefore, the Department of Justice decided to look into it further. Rod Rosenstein of the DEA decided to investigate and expose this terrible tale. These 6 officers were accused of manslaughter for having little compassion for Freddie, knowing that the police force they had blindly trusted could do something terrible, shocked the public. This top-notch police unit was comprised of Thomas Allers, Momadou Gondo, Jamel Rayam, Evodio Hendricks, Maurice Ward, Marcus Taylor, Daniel Herschel, and Wayne Jenkins. Everyone paid attention to Wayne since he was the leader. Wayne Jenkins was the worst law enforcement official there has ever been. The GTF was run by him, and he was in charge. You can refer to him as the mastermind. The Gun Track Task Force was uncovered in 2017 by a unit member who confessed to his crimes on a video that the DIA heard. Gondo was in touch with the narcotics gang. The investigators' discovery of the crucial clue that caused them to begin to question the police officers marked this moment as the pivotal one. Gondo's confessions were all recorded by the DAA. He disclosed his involvement in drug sales and use. The DA was surprised when he subsequently detailed other crimes in which he had participated. These police officers have committed a seemingly endless number of crimes. They had a good plan that they followed exactly every day without fail. The drug dealers were their major focus. They would target and torture these individuals. All the narcotics would be removed and sold again. They made more money from this than they could have as a police officer. They go looking for drug dealers to extort drugs and cash from every day. They lack any emotional attributes that a person should have, along with any sense of professional responsibility for the work they conduct as police officers. The only thing they cared about was gathering more drugs to sell. They will make a significant amount of money from this. They did not shoot other individuals with the illegal guns they carry, but instead unintentionally planted explosives on them. They could then detain anyone in possession of an unauthorized firearm. These officers were brought before the court to make confessions after being apprehended. Hearing about all the crimes these officers committed in a short amount of time startled the jury. Wayne once observed some men robbing a drugstore with the assistance of other officers. They valiantly put an end to the robbery, but they were not acting alone. They kept up the robbery and took drugs from that location. After plundering the business, they sold the drugs to additional drug dealers. Through that, they became very wealthy. A prominent drug dealer suspect's house was searched without warning after they stole his house keys. Then they went ahead and made off with $100,000 from there. They used to indiscriminately drive cars at high speeds in a crowd of people, exhibiting a cruel mentality. These policemen hunt people who flee for their life before arresting them. By carrying out such awful deeds, they feel strong and joyful. They fitted illegal tracking devices in the cars of narcotics dealers to follow them. The police officers would be able to find out where and when these drug sellers will be using this equipment. The cops from the GATF either raid their residences or steal their drugs and cash. They committed all of these acts over the last 3 years without anyone even suspecting them. They discriminated against and held a negative attitude towards black people. Throughout this brief time, they stole somewhere around $300,000. They stole 7 pounds of cocaine during these 3 years. From the narcotics sellers, they also took 43 pounds of marijuana. In addition to this, they converted the proceeds from the sale of pricey, one-of-a-kind jewels into cash. According to their respective portions, they divided up the entire sum of money and spent it all on themselves. A group of police officers could not possibly have committed such heinous atrocities while on duty. The court could not believe it. They received a sentence of 112 years. They must serve that sentence in prison. Jenkins, the chief of the GITF, received a particularly lengthy sentence because he was the perpetrator of all of these crimes. Jenkins is currently serving a sentence of 25 years in a Kentucky prison. These policemen's crimes had a significant impact on the Baltimore Police Department. Both the general public and other departments must come to trust them. Others now view them with contempt, since what this policeman did was unjustifiable. The HBO miniseries with that title is called We Own This City. The Baltimore incident served as inspiration for the producers, who turned it into a miniseries and showed it to the audience. Even among female police officers, there are nasty ones. Let's witness the account of a female police officer who was deceived by love and wealth. A female police officer named Antoinette Frank and her boyfriend Rogers Lacaze committed a terrible crime together. The horrifying murder occurred on March 4, 1995, stunning the residents of New Orleans. Together with her family, Chauveau managed her restaurant. They made a substantial fortune through their family business, Kim Ainge. To watch after their business, they had enlisted Ronald Williams as a part-time security guard. In his spare time, Ronald works there. He used to be a police officer when Frank and her boyfriend, a drug dealer, stormed into the restaurant and demanded money. Chauveau called Ronald to the dining room to give his wages. Frank began threatening Chauveau and her brother. Ronald tried to intervene to defend the siblings, but Frank's lover shot him. She panicked since Frank hadn't anticipated things to go worse. Chau and her brother hid in the walk-in fridge as Frank turned around to hunt for her companion. The older siblings, Kuang and Ha-Vu, were cleaning the restaurant when the incident occurred. Frank questioned them over the money, but Chau had hidden it in the microwave. She shot the 2 older siblings as soon as Frank discovered the money. Both of them received death sentences after being tried in court. Frank was transferred to a Louisiana prison for women. Do you believe there are other officers like this in law enforcement? Do you anticipate a repeat of this incident? Let us know in the comments.
Why are you giving me the finger? What? What's your problem? What? Why are you giving me the finger?
The video shows an officer driving a car, but suddenly he stops because of a teen who showed him the middle finger. So what did he do actually? Why did the boy take part in such behavior? Stay tuned to the video till the end to find out.
Why are you giving me the finger? What's your problem?
Am I free to go?
No.
What, do you have a problem?
No.
You have a problem?
No.
You don't have a problem, then I can leave.
Why are you giving me the finger when you're walking?
The officer gets out of the car and asks the boy exactly what is his problem. Why are you giving me the middle finger? But the boy does not react directly and instead asks whether he is free to leave. The officer refuses to let him go and questions him again about why he gave him the middle finger.
Huh? Come here. Get over here.
What?
Get over here.
Is that a lawful order?
Yeah.
For what reason?
Because you're giving me the finger.
The cop asks the boy again to come over. The boy asks him if it is a legal order, but he doesn't understand why. The officer then tells him that it is against the law for him to give the officer the finger, but the boy says that's not true. According to the law, Mr. Walker's use of the middle finger was protected speech, and he could not be arrested for making the gesture at corporal pitch.
Whatever. What?
You are. What,
Come here.
I'm afraid of you?
Come here. Get over here.
What?
Get over here.
The officer lets him go, but as the boy walks off, he again says something disrespectful to the officer.
Get over here.
I'm not doing anything illegal.
Yeah, you are. You just cursed me off.
That's not a crime.
Yes, it is.
The cop tells the boy to come over here when he calls him back. The boy then says, I'm not breaking the law, but the cop says it is against the law because he cursed at him. The argument between the boy and the officer carries on until this happened.
Help!
No help.
Help!
No.
Help!
When Mr. Walker begins screaming for help, the officer grabs him and puts his hands behind his back. Corporal Pritch turns his body-worn camera off and doesn't turn it back on until backup comes. It is obvious that the officer's actions, including turning off the body-worn camera, violated both state law and the Attorney General's policy.
It is legal. He's allowed to
Who is
detain
this
you
kid?
until he performs his
So what am I
investigation.
doing though? What am I doing that made him detain me? What legal right?
Every time I rode by him twice, he shot me the finger. So I turned around and said, "Well, you
Is that a crime?
problem?"
The other officer arrives and says it's legal to detain the boy, but the boy is still arguing that it is not a crime. So the first officer explains that he has shown the middle finger twice.
He's looking at you because he's like, what the fuck you want me to do? Because it's not a crime. I know my rights.
Who are you?
I don't have to say any of that.
You do if you're being detained.
For what reason?
The boy then asks the officers who have just come, what's the legal reason I'm being held? Where is this coming from? And what's the legal reason? Michael James LaMontagne arrives on the scene and informs the boy is required to identify himself because he is being detained despite the fact that he cannot provide a legal justification for the detention. However, New Jersey lacks a stop and identify statute that specifically requires Mr. Walker to identify himself, and courts have determined that New Jersey's obstruction statute cannot be applied to individuals who refuse to identify themselves to police.
Why are you
Shooting me the finger.
Why are you?
Is that illegal?
Why are you flipping the bird? Yes, it is. When you are cursing in public, you are causing a public disturbance. You're being a nuisance to the public.
The second officer asserts that the boy must identify himself. The officer goes on to explain that it is forbidden to curse in public because you're causing a public disturbance and being a nuisance to the public. In what way? When he was driving by. It's called calls from a public disturbance, and it doesn't mean you've been charged with anything. You're being detained at that point.
What reason does he need to detain me?
He thought maybe he thought you were signaling him down. Were you signaling to him?
No,
Listen, I was
no,
just-
you knew very well that I wasn't signaling to you, right? I wasn't signaling
Well,
to you.
you bring attention to yourself.
That's not signaling.
You're acting strange. I'm making sure you're okay.
Dude, that's so funny. Like, you're not here for my safety. You're not trying to protect
How
me.
do you know?
You're walking
may
on the
be-
side of the road and you're cursing and you're flipping the bird.
The boy asks again for what reason he's being detained, and they all start arguing.
Do you know him? Do you know him?
It's not your business. I
It is
plead the
my
fifth.
business.
I plead the fifth then.
It's
What's
your
the First
public
Amendment for?
Okay. The First Amendment is for your freedom of speech. Okay.
Okay.
What does that have to do with
Was I
using
making a cold
gestures?
action? Am I calling for an action to be done against you?
Do
No.
you understand
You're
that it
bringing
is?
attention to
Listen,
yourself and
listen,
getting
listen, listen.
That's illegal.
It's.
The boy asks for his First Amendment, and the officer explains it.
So
Well, I
legally
would-
need to hold anything.
Well, I want to know from your
I
perspective. What was I
pulled up
doing?
onto the scene, so you tell me what you were
To
doing.
bring your attention.
I plead the fifth. You idiot. How long have you been a cop? 6?
Longer than you.
Listen,
Longer than you, I'm not a cop.
I don't understand what the point of this is.
The boy asks for the perspective of another cop.
Now what happens?
He just admitted that
now
he was
what
going
happens
to arrest
is when
me.
he gives you a lawful order to stop, and you do
It
not
wasn't a
stop,
lawful order, though.
and you do not stop.
It legally was not a
and
lawful
you
order.
do not stop, then that becomes a criminal offense, and then yes, you can be put under
But
arrest.
it's not a lawful order. Then I take it to court, and then he'd get sued, and I get
Maybe.
punitive damages. I'd be rich. Is that what you want?
That
Oh,
may,
you don't know the
that
law,
may be
buddy.
what happens.
You don't know
if
the
you
law.
think that's going to happen.
The boy laughs at what the officer says and then says he just admitted he gives you a lawful order to stop and you don't do it. It wasn't all Florida though, and you do it legally. That becomes a criminal offense, and then yes, you can be put under, but it's not a lawful order. Then I take it to court, and then he gets sued and I get millions in damages. I'd be rich is what you wanted. The officer stated that the Fourth Amendment was not violated in this case since no seizure happened. Mr. Walker, the boy, was not arrested. However, as the Supreme Court explained in the infamous 1968 decision of Terry v. Ohio, the Fourth Amendment guarantees the right of the people to be safe in their persons, homes, papers, or belongings against unreasonable searches and seizures. However, it is clear that Mr. Walker was captured when Corporal Pritch, the officer, made physical contact with him in order to prevent him from fleeing. However, it is also quite likely that a judge would determine that Mr. Walker was detained for Fourth Amendment purposes when Corporal Pritch first ordered him to stop and he accepted.
That may be what's going to happen. It may not be what happens. Okay?
Okay, I understand.
What may happen is
all right, so what are we wasting time for?
Jury,
Am I free to go?
What may happen is you may get a normal jury. No, because at this point
for what reason?
You were detained, okay, because he told you to stop
Okay.
and you didn't stop.
Okay.
So therefore, you need to identify yourself as a part of the investigation. So what is your name?
Okay, I'm going to need all of your badge numbers.
I will give you everything written down on a card. What is your name?
I could give you...
If you have an ID, that's perfect.
Okay, I'll take it to court because this is still a detainment.
Are you a juvenile?
This is an illegal detainment,
Are you
so
a
I can
juvenile?
still... I'm not going to answer that.
The teenager asks if he is free to leave, but the officer says no because he is detained. He must identify himself as a participant in the investigation. The boy becomes more aware of his surroundings and informs them that he intends to take off all the badge numbers. The officer responds that everything will be written down on a card, but the boy believes it is still entertaining.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to
Then
take a
you can do
lawsuit.
that.
So who would I press criminal charges against?
What? You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to
police
call.
officers.
You're gonna have to call and figure that out with a lawyer. You would have to file a complaint with the courts.
Got it.
Okay. And then you can go from there if you want to see if you can press charges and whatnot if you're
Perfect.
violating your rights.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, am I free to go?
Don't give us fingers.
Shut the up.
Stay out of the roadway. Stop causing a public alarm.
Dude, shut the up. Am I free
Stop
to go?
cursing, okay?
Well, I'm going to
Then
take
you
a
can do
lawsuit.
that.
So who would I press criminal charges against?
What? You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to
police
call.
officers.
You're gonna have to call and figure that out with a lawyer.
The boy asks the lawyer to prove them wrong legally about how he was making a disturbance. The officer tells him that for further investigation, he'll have to call and talk to a lawyer about that. If your rights have been violated, you have to make a complaint with the courts. From there, you can decide if you want to press charges or do other things.
Am I
You're free to go.
Stop cursing. Go.
You're free to.
When the officers let him go free, Mr. Walker left from there without causing any further incident. After the incident, less information was known, so we don't know what they did as per the investigation.
The law is for everyone to follow, and no one is exempted from it, not even lawyers. No matter how intelligent they think they are, karma always gets them. Can attorneys get away with anything? Can they sway a ruling in favor of their clients or even themselves? Watch the video to see how these attorneys get owned by cops for breaking the law.
Las Vegas attorney in some trouble for a series of alleged late-night rendezvous with one of her clients.
Hal Uhrig, an area criminal defense attorney from Orlando, made headlines all over the country. Hal Uhrig, who represented George Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin shooting incident, was arrested on various charges, which included soliciting perjury and tampering with a witness or victim. Marcos Lopez, Osceola County Sheriff, said that Uhrig took on a case involving a man named Krishnath Prasad, who had been charged of raping a 9-year-old girl. Uhrig was accused of holding a meeting with his client, the victim, and her father. Uhrig tried to cut a deal to keep the suspect from going to jail. During their meeting, Uhrig instructed the victim and her father to do 3 things. Firstly, to write a declination, that is a letter to the state attorney saying that the rape never happened.
Basically a letter to the state attorney saying the rape didn't happen.
Secondly, to avoid being served a subpoena so that they didn't have to go to court to testify, and lastly, to lie during their deposition and say that the rape didn't happen. According to Lopez, he wanted to make sure this guy didn't go to trial for rape. He added that Mr. Prasad committed the sexual battery at a time when she was 9 years old, and this is what caused Mr. Uhrig to work a deal out with the victim to try and get Mr. Prasad off on a lesser charge so that sexual assault battery cases will go to trial, and this will be a separate trial against the attorney. Even after being pressured to such an extent, the victim decided to come forward and report the conduct to the state attorney's office in July of 2021. Osceola County started an investigation against Prasad's attorney on the basis of the victim's complaint. The victim's father engaged in a controlled phone call with Uhrig and said that he couldn't talk on the phone about any specifics and wanted to meet in person. According to the officials, The father wore a recording device during his meeting with Uric, and during the meeting, the attorney made him turn off his cell phone and told the father to read a script off of his computer screen.
He wore a recording device, the victim's father. During the meeting, the attorney made him turn off his cell phone.
Lopez said that the script was his defense for when he goes to court on the charges. However, fate had other plans for them. Persaud, who was arrested back in 2019, is working his way through the court system. On the other hand, Uric is accused of soliciting to commit perjury, which is a third-degree felony, and also for tampering with and harassing a victim, which amounts to a capital life felony. Given Uric's 40-year-long career, this might not be the first time he has done something like this. According to Lopez, if you're an attorney, you've been practicing law for a long time, and there's no way you're going to jeopardize your career on something like this, especially at that age. Especially at that age, it's retirement time. So I think this wasn't his first rodeo. Unless someone else comes forward, we won't know that, but that's what I suspect this time. The next attorney in line is Alexis Plunkett. This topsy-turvy case involves a 38-year-old attorney from Las Vegas named Alexis Plunkett, was indicted with 2 counts of conspiracy to unlawfully possess a portable communication device and 12 counts of a portable telecommunication device by a prison. The charges relate to her visit with her 28-year-old client and boyfriend at the time named Andrew Arevalo. This man was shot in the face by a high-state correction officer in 2014. He also faced felony and weapon charges and was awaiting trial. His case was represented by Plunkett in his lawsuit against the Nevada Department of Corrections in connection with the shooting, which resulted in another man's death. During her visit, security camera footage shows Plunkett handing over her phone to Arevalo. Now, this is a felony that could land her in jail for a year. However, her case took a complicated turn. Even though the couple started off as boyfriend and girlfriend, they were experiencing rifts in their relationship after her phone was examined by the police. It seems that she is trying to put a hit on Arevalo. Her text messages about her joking about felonies led her to her downfall. Some of the texts read, "I've placed hits in every Nevada prison on Andrew with every homie and lifer I know." She further added, "This pause will never survive in prison now. He's F with the wrong bit. I am not the one. I represent all the sure-knows and he's gonna get it." However, one of the people in the group asked her to delete the message. He said, "Alexis, this isn't funny. I know you are under a tremendous amount of stress, but I'm not interested in joking about felonies. I don't think anyone is either." She replied, "I am not joking. That's why I said to delete it. He said he was going to have me murdered, so I'll take care of business first." Plunkett's attorney Adam Solinger said that her messages show that she was under great stress and she was only venting about the bad situation she was in, and that her words shouldn't be taken as a serious threat. Despite all of her 14-count indictment, Plunkett was dismissed by the district judge Michael Villani. However, she was shockingly arrested again for charges of bribing or intimidating a witness, which is a felony. According to her lawyer, her guilty plea comes after reaching an agreement with prosecutors. The agreement is a good resolution for all sides involved. It's the choice that she made that's best for her, and I respect that. Ultimately, it came down to being tired of continued litigation. Fighting a war on 2 fronts takes a toll on you, and remaining in custody pending your trial and resolution of your other case is really hard to do. She pleaded guilty of possession of a telecommunication device and was ordered to serve 3 years of probation and was later disbarred. In the next case, Christopher Reynolds, a 44-year-old Florida attorney, shocked everyone. He was accused of stealing nearly $800,000 from his clients. He was arrested by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for multiple charges, including money laundering and grand theft. He started his private practice in Seminole back in 2015, representing victims of vehicle crashes. He had dealt with at least 16 clients before they had their money stolen by Reynolds. It was back in October that the detectives came to know about the theft when one of Reynolds' clients came forward. The client complained to the authorities that her lawsuit for $100,000 had been settled months earlier. However, Reynolds never notified her about this. The investigators made a shocking discovery. Reynolds had forged his client's signature on the legal documents and collected the money from insurance companies that should have been disturbed to pay medical bills and provide other compensation related to car accident. This was a similar pattern for most of the clients that had availed his services. Once he had settled his case, he would disappear without a trace, never to be seen again. He would neither pick up the calls or respond to the voicemails, and would cut off all forms of communication he had with the client's eye. In another incident, the lawyer pocketed the woman's $100,000 and continuously lied to her in the communications before it abruptly stopped that he was going to solve this with the insurance company. He also forged the woman's name on settlement documents, and he never paid her medical bills with the settlement money. His highest theft amounted to $148,750 from a client back in 2019. Sheriff Gualtieri claimed that the clients must have had serious injuries for their settlement money to be in 6 figures. Now, what did he do with the money he stole? The answer will shock you. The lawyer had a drug abuse problem. He used a portion of the stolen money to purchase drugs and nearly spent $30,000 on pornography and $424,000 on prostitution. Sheriff Gualtieri later commented, "They're licensed to practice law. They've got the boxes checked. They've got the credentials. They've got the credibility that goes with that, and they're really just a thief who is ripping them off." These are not isolated cases. Many lawyers who are corrupted and have been cheating people for years are roaming free in this world with no one to put a check on them. What do you think of these lawyers? Were they punished approximately? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to press the bell icon and subscribe to our channel for future updates.